major component of Common Core testing standards as well as learning standards in the classroom, and that is text-based answers. And it's something we've heard a lot about on past standardized tests, supporting the answer of a student with specific information from a passage, but it goes a lot deeper into problems in the future. And some of the most troubling quotes I pulled out here start at about 2 minutes into the video, where the moderator says, "It can be very tempting if you see a student digging into the text and having a reaction, having their own epiphany, their own connection to the text based on their own experience, to not make room for that in the classroom. So it actually takes some discipline and a little bit of letting go of watching that student make those connections to pull the students back to the text." John King responds with, "I think that's exactly right." Now, the goal of the standards is made out to be a development of deeper level thinking. While this proposition seems to be the exact opposite, King blatantly states that there is no room in a classroom for individual thinking. The idea that all should function as the same reflects larger issues that turn these creative minds into robots. I don't see that students are understanding the processes by which they come to a conclusion, but are being taught a single way to reach an answer with so much extraneous information that it becomes confusing. Now, Coleman goes on to say, "It's funny. I think the movement away from the text was to engage students, to interest them, and then to make it more interesting. It's interesting to talk about myself, what I feel, and connect it to how it resembles my life. Often people describe it as the golden hook that gets kids interested in what they're reading. And so I do think there is a challenge here at the heart of teaching. How do we develop a fascination with what the text is up to without creating that personal connection?" And I'd like to repeat that. Often people describe it as the golden hook that gets kids interested in what they're reading. Coleman insinuates that we should get rid of the most engaging aspects to students. What does that mean? In regards to your question, Mr. Coleman, I'm wondering the same thing. And my question is more on the lines of why are we getting rid of that important engaging aspect to make room for this systematic approach that's really bringing kids away from what they're being taught. To use my text-based evidence from Ray Bradbury's novella Fahrenheit 451, I quote, "If you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him two sides to a question to worry him. Give him one. Better yet, give him none. Cram them full of non-combustible data. Chock them so full of facts they feel stuffed, but absolutely brilliant with information. Then they'll feel they're thinking. They'll get a sense of motion without moving, and they'll be happy because facts of that sort don't change." End quote. When one feels this sense of perfection, they're following these rules that are set out for them, they don't aim to improve. Is this what we consider critical thinking? The end result is a population full of these perfect beings who reach a cap on their knowledge at this point where they don't aim to improve. And this is ridiculous to me, especially considering that we live in the information age, where we have a network of information and knowledge out there for us, where the true intellect comes from those who can process that puzzle in an innovative way. At about 7 minutes into the video, this is the most shocking part. Coleman says, "Let me ask you as an artist, rather than a teacher. Imagine you spent weeks, even months, maybe years, developing the opening chapter of your book, and you thought carefully exactly how you wanted to introduce it, and exactly what associations you wanted to build, and unfurl it. And then someone thought the best way to teach it was to interrupt your way of beginning and add all of their own associations with it, and entirely distort your ability to set the table. What would you feel as an author? Every writer is prompting things. They are reminding you of things. They are setting the table. They're choosing just what to leave in and leave out." The moderator responds with, "So why is the teacher getting in the way of that?" And Coleman says, "In a sense, that's what I'm trying to say." This is as black and white as it gets. According to the people in charge of directing the future of our education, there isn't even a need for a teacher in the classroom. And that brings up the question, who's really setting the table at that point? Taking a step back, let's address this from an artist. I've created stories throughout my life. I've reworked and reassessed to result in a polished product. And no artist sits down with the intention of not delivering any sort of It's not that they don't want their layers uncovered and for people to understand the world they created, but rather that much of literature is just a realization of those conceptions. A book holds these bits of the world around it to be pieced together by that free-thinking human mind. Without new interpretations to the adapting times, there is nothing left. Now, I understand that delving into personal feelings, how something makes you feel, doesn't necessarily encourage making scholarly conclusions and pulling things together. That's where the teacher comes in. I can vouch for the fact that students need attention to go above and beyond, and a set of universal standards kind of puts everybody on the same level. The major fault in attempting to bring up the lowest performers in this way is twofold. One, it demonizes the true groundbreakers, those who understand what they're doing without necessarily understanding these workarounds that they're being taught to get there. And it also really doesn't do much to educate those who struggle. It moves the bar so low to attribute to the smallest minority. Of course, this goes way beyond just flawed test questions. This is our goal that we've all set. Some are completely blinded to that fact. And now this is exactly what the leaders of the race to nowhere intend to do with us, unless we do what we can to stop it. At this point, we're so deep into it that changing it isn't really an option. We need to stop and take a step back and reassess